In this video, I would like to go through the programming environment that you need to have in order to be successful in this course, starting, let's say, with the compute. I think it's quite important to have at least access to a capable laptop, any laptop that has been purchased the last 3 years, starting from the Macs with the M1 processor to latest versions of, let's say, version 11 of an Intel processor if you are on the Windows platform, or even better on an Ubuntu platform. That will actually be sufficient. You need at least 16 gigabytes of memory, and also you need to have access to, ideally you want to have access to your personal GPU, but even if you don't, we will be using Colab, the Google Colab, for accelerating certain workloads that we need to do either for assignments or for your project. So the starting point, if you like, is to get familiar with how to set up programming environments and development environments using Docker containers. I think the Docker containers, if you like, is an essential, almost a de facto standard in data science and AI today. So you need to be familiar with it specifically for your project and potentially some assignments, but mainly for your project. Your project may become in the form of a Docker container, and the video over here, which you can actually access from the resources page over here on the site, will walk you through and educate you what is a Docker container and how you can actually to understand, if you like, a Docker file, what it is, and how to author your own and configure your environment without necessarily having to configure for every project your host machine. We will be also assuming at some point that you will be having an installation of an integrated development environment. There are two environments that are very popular. One is Visual Studio Code, which is the most popular, and there is another one called PyCharm, and both of them are actually capable. I believe that for the needs of the project, specifically to work seamlessly with Docker containers, you probably need to have access to the pro version of PyCharm, which is free for students and academia. So I think you should be fine in either way. You will actually see in some elements of during the delivery that I'll be using my own, which is called the Visual Studio Code over here, and you can actually access from that link. I also have included here some installation instructions about how to instantiate, especially if you're on Windows environment, WSL2. WSL2 stands is for Windows Subsystem number 2, and it's basically instantiates an Ubuntu virtual machine in your laptop. And if your laptop, as I said, is equipped with NVIDIA GPUs, it also passes through that GPU over to the Ubuntu machine. So you are having a fairly compelling development environment if you have that. Okay, but nevertheless, even on a Mac, with, as I said, with the latest generation, you should be able to be successful in this project. And in any case, we have also the other environment that we also need to be familiar with, called Google Colaboratory. Google Colaboratory is the only game in town that provides GPU acceleration, free GPU acceleration, but there are some constraints with respect to the ability of you using it for many hours at a time. So it may be worthwhile considering paying for the pro version, which I believe is around $20, when the time comes to execute the heavy processing for your project, let's say. So I think the expense is going to be around $20 to $40 if you purchase 1 or 2 month subscription there for the pro version of Google Colaboratory. Those who are familiar with AWS, you should know that these are going to incur charges, but the AWS is another possibility. And Hugging Face is also Spaces is also another possibility. Hugging Face Spaces is also providing some free resources, and also they are allowing you to deploy Docker containers for free up to the resource constraints that they impose. So this is also another recommended computing resource. We don't recommend Kaggle, not because Kaggle is not important. Kaggle is a de facto destination for accessing competitions and data these days, but definitely the compute environment of Kaggle is subpar to the Google Collaborator that you actually have over here. So at least in terms of compute, just focus on Google Colab if you are to limit yourself to just running notebooks. Okay, so this is basically some other instructions about setting up local development environments, and also some instructions on how to get familiar with Git. You need to have a GitHub account to be successful in this course and to be able to submit your assignments, which I'll come in a moment. And there is, for some of the books that we recommend, I remind you that there is code available. So you want to clone or fork those repositories and be familiar with them, because you may want to step through, and you need to actually be stepping through the code after each lecture in order for you to absorb the Python implementations that we quote or we go through. Okay, so that's basically it with respect to the environment. We don't have anything else, the development environment. And we also have another resource here that will walk you through what you need to do in order for you to submit an assignment. So typically we would require you to set up a GitHub repository once for the specific course at the beginning of the semester, and you commit into that GitHub repository in folders your assignments, and maybe the project requires its own GitHub repository, so you effectively at the end you have one for the assignments and another for your project. The format that you won't be including there may range from plain Python files to markdown files to images and notebooks. And specifically for notebooks, if you are running it in a Colab, then we also describe here how you would commit those, how you would add collaborators with a share button over there to be, collaborators. You collaborate with your TAs, so that when the TAs get the link on the Colab, then they will be able to open it and grade your assignment. So that's basically all it's needed, and it is described here. Evidently, we need you to take and copy and paste that URL into Brightspace in order for us to be able to know where your URL is and be able to grade it. Okay, so that's not really much here, but there is some kind of process of getting at least set up initially. And I wanted to cover now also some kind of requirements. We do require you to know Python for this course. And definitely there is a very nice free book for Python if you are kind of a more book oriented and you want to read something. But there is also certain very, very popular courses out there free of charge. One, probably the best one to start if you do not know basic Python, is Harvard CS50P. P stands for Python. It's the familiar CS50, but for the Python version. And it's accessible also here, including some slide content and videos, as well also on the EDX platform, which you can also install in your mobile device and or iPad. There are some other links over here that we have included. There is, courses that we have found to be useful for students. Some of them are paid, but definitely they have free trials, which you could exercise because you only need to go through certain modules, and therefore we have included some of those here. All right, so then some numerical version of Python. So apart from the basic Python, there is, if you like, some numerical Python that you need to be familiar. More specifically, you need to be familiar with NumPy, which is the numerical Python, and you also need to be familiar with Pandas APIs. Now, Pandas themselves are needed. Definitely, they are not right now, at least in the version 1, the fastest data frame kind of implementation. There is also Polars, which offers a compatible to Pandas API. So either Pandas or Polars is fine, but definitely Pandas is almost a de facto standard these days, and so that's the second library. So NumPy and Pandas are the two libraries you're going to be familiar with to be able to just bring in data and manipulate data for some of the assignments that may be needed. And as I said, for neural networks, you probably need to select either TensorFlow Keras or PyTorch, and either of the two will be very sufficient for the needs of this project. We don't recommend JAX at this point, and in fact, JAX is going to be removed from this website, as it is another framework that it is, right now, it was suggested kind of earlier for some kind of almost from scratch implementations, but then we have kind of migrated our thinking to use just Keras and PyTorch. Okay. All right, so there are also some kind of other additional resource. Obviously, you probably know already LeetCode that can prepare you for interviews and so on. Okay, that's basically all with respect to your programming environment, Python, and how to submit assignments and projects. And in a separate kind of video, we will actually go through some prerequisites, more specifically, some probability kind of concepts to get you started.